the children of Israel and Jerusalem were conquered by the Babylonians, and they were under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar. But when they went into exile, they were wondering, how can this be? How can a loving God, so loving, do this to us? Have you ever been in a situation and say, how can this happen to me? But I'm a child of God. How come they were, for decades, they were under that captivity. And yet they asked this question. So while they were under the captivity, the Lord sent Ezekiel to them to go in the midst of that captivity to explain why. And the why is what we see over here in that Ezekiel. But before that, he explained the why went on from chapter 1 to chapter 16. But the main thing was actually in that chapter 16. He said because they were full of pride, they had fullness of food, but yet did not attend to the poor. That they had abundance of idleness. And the last one, which is the haughty and spirit and abundance of abomination. We're going to go to each and every one of this to explain it. The first one was that they were full of pride. They were full of pride. They did well for themselves. They built buildings and they did, a lot of things. But they did not attend to the poor people. They were bragging of what they have, what they own, what they have achieved in life. Does that sound familiar? Let me just bring it home. We might be doing well in America, but back home, maybe a parent or someone is suffering. You cannot be bragging and looking good over here, yet it neglect those that are needy. It reminds me of the rich man and the poor man. We studied about that in Digging Deep. But I saw that he's someone that is a believer. But yet he neglected the poor man that was by his way. So we cannot neglect those that are suffering and say that we're doing well for ourselves. They have accomplished a lot, but they neglected the poor. The second one is the fullness of food. This is where it affected me personally. This is where it pricked me personally. Sometimes when we have a gathering at church, extra food is left over. They sent it, home with me, and I take it, put it in the fridge, and I cook. How many of us cook every single day of the week? We have no choice. Yeah, cook that, put it there. One day, which is the day before this happened, I had to grab a trash bag out of the underneath the sink, and do you believe me? The spoiled food, the leftovers, the food that the kids refused to eat, filled up in that trash bag. That is a sin. It pricked me because I have a job to do as a believer to make sure I'm not wasting food. Because did I give to the poor that week? No, I did not. But yet, I'm wasting it. These are some of the things that they were guilty of. And they do it constantly, and they neglect the poor. It's so important that we understand that just because we are blessed, we should not forget about those that are less fortunate than we are. The third is their abundance of idleness. Their abundance of idleness. The word idleness over there in the Hebrew is actually called shekat. And shekat means idleness of mouth. Meaning that, and this is where the Lord wants me to dwell on mostly in this message for you today. He said that your mouth was closed in the things you should be talking about. The reason why America cannot tell us, can keep our mouth shut, is because we allow them. We say, oh, it doesn't pertain to me. As long as it doesn't pertain to my children or whatsoever, I can walk away from it. And then it must not be so. As believers, we see things happen in the church and we shut our mouth. Things that are wrong. Things that as the body, it needs to communicate. It communicates. I cannot move the leg without the head moving. We need to be able to tell each other the truth. We need to be able to correct each other, not ignore one another. The Israelite will see things happen and they say, well, it does not concern me. As long as I worship God on Sunday, that's the most important thing. But this cost them so much. And one of the reasons why it cost them so much is, why were they acting like that? Why were they acting like that? Because they were blessed. When you are blessed, you don't worry about other people. I want to touch up on some of the abominations. I do not like touching, but I'll have you write some of the verses down. You can go home and see it. Some of them are really shocking. We already know about the man cannot lay with man, women cannot lay with women, and that's in Leviticus 16, 21 to 25. And how we are not meant to defile ourselves. Also, you'll see it in Deuteronomy 22, verse 5. Another abomination that you might not be familiar with is lying lips. And that's in Proverbs 22, 12, 22. Proverbs 12, 22. It says, lying lips are abomination unto God, but they that deal truly are his delight.